Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Jeff and Andrew from Road To Infamy Games. Together, they design streamlined, easy-to-learn games centered around a unique game mechanism or component. The recent title, Canvas, funded on Kickstarter last year with over 16,000 backers. Jeff, Andrew, welcome to the Binge. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having us, James.
It's great. This game just gets me so excited and brings such joy just looking at it. Like it is almost like a visual masterpiece, right? This is the kind of game that when you're at game night out in public at either a local game shop or if you're doing a group with friends and people walk by the table and see this game, this is the stopper, right? This is the one where people stop and say, "Whoa, what are you guys playing?" What was the inspiration behind this whole thing? Like you guys did some crazy numbers on this. Like this hit, just for the listeners, 16,000 backers, as I said, $713,000 in Canadian dollars. It always sounds bigger when it's in Canadian dollars. But I mean, that's a huge campaign. And it's so unique, you know, this idea of these kind of cards coming together and so forth. So like, what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, thank you for those very kind words. Definitely going to slap that on, next version of the game. Visual masterpiece. Love that. But yeah, it stemmed from a conversation Andrew and I were having before Gen Con a couple of years ago. And I was really trying to make an art themed game that used the transparent cards. We had played Mystic Vale a while before that, which is a great game. But like when playing it, I just really wished the whole time that when I put the cards together that it would like visually do something additive and make use of that transparent component. So we argued for a really long time about how totally impossible it would be to achieve something like that. And then months and months later, changing the art style, like we finally landed on something. Our illustrator Luan Huyn did an incredible job like figuring out like the right level of detail to use and stuff, so it still felt like painterly and stuff kind of blended together like it was painted. So that was a huge obstacle, but it all like really stemmed from just trying to figure out how to cleverly make that transparent component work.
Yeah, these cards, I remember seeing even some of the Game Crafters of the world or makeplayingcards.com where you can go and get your prototypes. About a year ago, started announcing, hey, now we've got, transparent like acrylic cards, right? And I think that, good for you guys to look at that and say, okay, how can I take this new kind of invention or idea and turn it into something that's creative? So you guys are the co-owners of this company. How did you guys meet? Like, is this high school? I hear you guys, this is how you first kind of connected?
Yeah, Jeff and I met in basically homeroom of high school. And from there, we made a band together, a ska band. Jeff played the guitar and did vocals, and I did drums. And then, our friendship just went on through college, after college, and we ended up being roommates in Chicago. And, with that close proximity, we just like always, talked about games and, so it just kind of naturally developed from there.
Now, were you guys creating games even when you're in college or high school, or is this something that kind of later on kind of started coming together?
You want to take that, Jeff?
Jeff may have frozen, so I'll let you answer that.
Oh, okay, sure. So yeah, in high school we'd get together. It was mostly Jeff would be making games. He made we made a friends group only version of what was Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
Played apples to apples and saw how you could just put naughty words on cards and have fun. And then later after college, we really loved the series Hunger Games, like the book series.
Okay.
And we got 24 friends to get online and play like a Dungeons and Dragons style version of that.
Well,
and
cool.
That was the first time that we really delved into like game making, like, oh, what do we want people to feel? What do they want to do? what would make you feel like a 10-year-old kid, like fighting for survival and like, you know. So that we said, oh, that's great. We can make that into a board game. And we tried and we couldn't do it, but we made a different game instead. We made our first game, Road to Infamy. And then naturally the next step was like, we think this is really good. Like, I think other people enjoy playing it. And wouldn't it be so cool if we could get like 100 people in the world playing our game? So it started out very modest and as like a part-time thing that we just did as a hobby.
So, and then you guys decided to name your company after that first game. It was
yes.
It was just because it was a cool name,
no one
or
should ever do. It's a fine game. It's funny. Like after we came out with it, I was watching reviewers. Like Tom Vassell will put it in every board game review where it's clearly a brand new company. It's like, oh look, another company named themselves after the first game. People need to stop doing that. So if someone's out there like aspiring publisher, like name it just something fun and cool, and you don't have to tie it to the first game you make. You're going to make other games. You're going to grow as a designer and make, you know, hopefully like even better and better games. So just find some name that you are happy to say 100 times a day. Because Road to Infamy is a mouthful.
It is. That's a cool name, though. I mean, you got to give it that. At least it's a cool name. So that's something that, and I mean, with this kind of game after game you guys keep launching, I mean, that's your Road to Infamy, right? So it kind of fits the image of your company. So
thank you. That's very nice of you.
I do want to dive into some of those other games in that journey, but before we do that, let's talk about Canvas, because I know that, again, this is just visually an amazing game. Can you describe to people how to play this game for people that are watching? I'm going to share my screen so they can kind of follow along on the Kickstarter page. But can you just kind of take us through the gist of how you play the game?
Sure. Yeah, the overall concept here is you're trying to create paintings, and you do that by picking up these transparent cards that have partial illustrations on them. And as you layer them together in various combinations, not only do you create a cool, unique illustration, but depending on the order you layer them in, they may reveal or obscure various icons. So it's very much a puzzle game as you're trying to get the right sequences of icons that match the scoring conditions. And then you'll score ribbons the more times you hit each victory point condition. So there's a little bit of a card drafting mechanism where you're paying the inspiration tokens to the center to take the card that you want. And then it's very much a spatial reasoning puzzle game to try and score as many points as possible.
Yeah, and it's I think I was saying this earlier that I have trouble with sometimes getting the kids. And by kids, I mean my children are teenagers, but to get them at the table to sit down and play a game. And something like this, it's got this very visual component where it's like you're creating the paintings yourself, right? I think that is something that is probably attractive to a lot of people. Like, I think you guys have really hit on something here, and clearly in the results of your campaign, you've hit on something big, right? Like, people are certainly relating to this concept. And I think it's kind of cool how the names even change of the paintings, right? So depending on how you layer the cards, it'll actually create a name. I think I saw one that's something like Melancholy Battle or something like this. Like, there's different kind of funny names that can come out of these paintings. And when you sleeve them, is there, like I've seen in your campaign, you had like little kickstands that you could put your painting, like little easels you could put your painting on. Is the idea for people to kind of showcase these even after the game to say, this is maybe how the game ended and this is my favorite painting? Or?
Yeah, I think that's part of the fun of it is we're hoping to kind of create moments in the game that you feel like you made something yourself and it's worth sharing. I know I've already seen a few people post on Instagram and people like kind of talking through the metaphorical analysis of what they believe that their painting means. And I think stuff like that's just really fun to hear. And I'm really happy that, some people are getting some joy out of the thematic aspect of that. It is very much a game about creating something and being able to show that to the other people and sharing that experience.
It's almost like you want to take those sleeved finished cards and then put it into your Dixit game. So you're playing Dixit, you've got some new creations to put into that particular game. Yeah, it is. It is beautiful. Now, this is the 6th campaign I believe you guys have run on Kickstarter. And, I think it's important to kind of highlight this because, there's people out there that do Kickstarters and they're not successful or they fail. And you can go from failing to kicking ass, right? And that's certainly what you guys have done here. I think was it your 2nd campaign or your 3rd campaign that didn't quite fund? It's called Bow Ties.
Yeah, Bow Ties was our 3rd campaign, and we were really excited for it. We had a lot of friends and family who said, "You have to put this out there. It's so good." And then it wasn't right for the Kickstarter market, and pricing or marketing could have been better. So I think at that time, coming out with our 3rd one, we thought there was no way we could have a campaign failure, and so that was a big wake up call, and we learned so much. I mean, I think that it was probably the most helpful campaign from that point, because it's easy to say everything I'm doing is right when the campaign's successful, and it's not until you get something that's doesn't do as well that you can say, well, what can I do better for next time? How do I improve? So it was super helpful from that point of view.
I've heard 2 sayings. One is success breeds success, but I've also heard success can breed failure. And usually when that happens, it's because people forget the work that went into that first success, right? You almost start, like, in hindsight, you kind of lose a lot of the detail of timelines kind of compressed, and you sometimes it can be easy to forget everything, like the grind you had to go through to get to that initial success. And it can almost sometimes create an overconfidence. So it's kind of cool you guys recognize that. And then, so what did you pivot? So when you went from your, the Bow Tie, and by the way, did Bow Ties did you publish it in another format, or is it just kind of scuttled for now, or what did you do with that game?
It's available on the Game Crafter. Okay. So that's like a print on demand website. So you can get there.
Yeah. We had JT Smith on
those guys are the best. Yeah. JT and everyone over there. But I was going to say, so after Bow Ties didn't work out, we realized, we kind of got a better idea of what was good for the Kickstarter market. So this Bow Ties was like a party drinking game. Okay. And that's just, you don't see that many people on Kickstarter. So we realized, like, what was so good about the other games? Why did they really, what did people like about them? So I think it's easy when you don't know the publisher, that if they make a smaller game that doesn't need like a huge price point to get into, people are generally more, willing to give you a shot. And then the trick is just like jamming a bunch of game in there and, filling it with, your best work, throw your love into it. And then people kind of really appreciate that. And I think as we've gone on too, we've learned other things, like artwork really matters. It's hard you're not going to be able to touch any of the components. It's going to be very hard to understand how to actually play any game through Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. But what you can do is kind of show them the moments, the physicalness. And so that's what we really loved when we landed on these clear cards, was just like, I can so easily show people why this will be fun. I just need a picture of like 2 cards slowly overlapping each other, and you'll go, oh, that does sound like it could be fun. So anything that can make the gameplay feel meaningful through like video or GIFs is like super helpful.
And so in terms of that unique mechanic, so one of the things you guys have kind of put a stake in the sand on is said, going forward, or maybe in the past, but, certainly going forward, a unique mechanic or unique component is going to be kind of your platform. And so have you done, was Canvas the first time that happened, or?
Yeah, Canvas was really like the first unique component in trying to make it fit into the hobby mechanisms of it. Yeah, if it's a unique, component or mechanism, it just begs attention from, the board game crowd.
Yeah, certainly people want to know kind of what's that. There was one that Travis Hancock did with his game, the Bristol series. with a book, right? His whole thing is, the whole thing fits on the shelf and physically looks like a book, right? And it's that kind of unique element where people are like, "Oh, what is that?" Right? I got to have that, and certainly this is one as well. So, have you guys started planning that out going forward to think, okay, without giving anything away, obviously, but have you thought of some unique? Have you come across other unique things that you've already started planning, saying, "Okay, I'm going to now incorporate these in our games going forward"?
Yeah. I always that's kind of at the forefront of my mind when I'm designing, and I actually have a whole spreadsheet of where I just like whenever I come up with a weird toy kind of gimmick or a interesting mechanism or just like a really cool way to use a component that it's not normally used, I add it to my spreadsheet, and I've got just like a huge list of these things, and then so that I use that as my brainstorming tool to try and come up with new game design ideas. Sometimes I'll when I'm really struggling to come up with something, I'll just like grab a random number generator, have it pull up two numbers. I'm like, cool, how can I smash up these two crazy ideas and see where that takes me? And most of the time it doesn't, but like it's an interesting mental exercise to kind of design from that perspective.
And so how do you guys split the roles between the two of you? So I get the sense, Jeff, the design is something that obviously is top of mind for you. Is it, Andrew, are you involved in the design as well? Or have you guys kind of split the business in terms of creative versus business? Or how do you guys allocate the tasks between the two of you?
Yeah, it's pretty collaborative. The game design we split, and then Jeff is amazing with the graphic design, and he'll also be really good at directing our illustrators and really like getting the ideas in our head to words so they understand what they're trying to do. And then I do the business, so accounting and taxes, and now HR and logistics, warehousing. Yeah.
So you have all the fun stuff. It depends on the perspective you're coming at it for. Some people actually see it as the fun stuff, but yeah, the fun stuff for sure. So when you guys launched your first couple of campaigns, they did well. I mean, they did well, but it seemed to be that you really hit your stride. I believe it was when you did Crypt, right? That's when you kind of cracked. I think it was like 220,000, 11.6 thousand backers. That's when you're getting to big numbers, right? So when you cross kind of the six figures, what was it like? Was there anything for you guys where you said, okay, was there any learning, I guess I'm trying to get at, between the campaigns you did before that point to that one? What fundamentally changed for you guys?
Probably the $9 price tag.
Okay.
Which is kind of a ridiculous price to sell the game at. But we tried to create a really minimalist game that still had as high of production value as it could for $9. It was kind of an interesting design challenge, but we put a lot of effort into that, like the way the product looked from its packaging, right? Like the box looks like a sarcophagus. It feels very thematic and stuff, and I think that kind of drew people in. And then they see the price point and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is got to be the best looking game under $10 there is." So we made it. We made it our goal to like really give you like bang for your buck with that one. And maybe like while smaller profit margins for that game, obviously, like we were hoping that to use that campaign to kind of build an audience and just get our games out there, have more people play our games, and be able to say like, hey, yeah, these guys are legit designers. Like maybe I'll back their next one.
And did you find when you have lower price points like that, I know at least from personal experience, you have some people will push back and say, well, wait a second, your shipping cost is, more than your game, or the same as your, did you get any of that kind of feedback? Which I find very strange, right? It's like, okay, should I sell it higher so that you feel better about the shipping price? But like, was there any feedback like that from people?
I mean, that is the psychology of, Kickstarter. Like you can't tell people how much the shipping costs in some ways, because it's always ridiculous. It's crazy to think about how much of that plays into it. I mean, we went the other direction. We said, if you got 2 copies for $9 a piece, you got free shipping. Wow. So we made it as tight as possible. And I mean, we were Yeah, we were riding the knife's edge there.
Yeah,
But
especially when you're shipping out of country too, right? Like I can see in the
yeah,
States that's you can make the math work. I mean, you can do the math very clearly. You know exactly what you're spending. Once you start shipping out of country, that's when it's a whole nother game, right?
right. And I mean, shipping prices have really changed so much in the last 2, 3
Yeah.
years. So it's a campaign we probably could never run again. It was just striking at the right time. But
I think there's certain price points as well that allows you to fulfill straight from China if need be as well, right? So I think that type of a game was that price point, that size. You probably could have fulfilled from China, I guess, as well. Would have been an option.
yeah, and that's what we did. So yeah, that helped keep costs down a lot. But then you still, I mean, it's not the best experience for backers who have to wait, sometimes 2 months to get their game. And I mean, and the games have traveled the world, so you also have more damaged stuff that you have to replace. So you're right, it's just a complicated mess.
Oh yeah. So and then when you did the titles after that, your pricing came up, right? On the actual cost of the games. Was it the audience that you had created with Crypt that helped with those later campaigns, or was there anything else that you did? Like, was there any kind of social media advertising or anything you did to try to build that audience outside of kind of that initial campaign?
Yeah, we don't do a lot of advertising. It's been a lot of just, I mean, I think it's a lot of return backers. We've had a lot of people join our mailing list after each campaign. It's so our outreach going into each campaign has grown a lot. And it's really important to get that momentum up front, so you kind of get the traction, appear at the top of the Kickstarter magic searches, and all that's really important. And it's just been like every game we put out, we get a little more traction going into it.
In terms of play testing in this new environment with COVID and lockdown and so forth, how have you guys changed your development approach for games going forward? Because we're obviously in a very different situation now than we were even a year ago.
It's all tabletop simulator. Yeah, I've been spending way too many hours on that program. And every time you open Steam, it reminds you, it's like you've spent 400 hours playing tabletop simulator. Like, oh my God, this is crazy. But yeah, this is the life of game design right now. Is you have to do all your play testing digitally, so you got to learn the software, learn how to upload all your custom components, get people all online at the same time, deal with the internet challenges, and but yeah, we've been trucking through it. If anything, we're play testing more than ever before. So.
And have you created like groups that you have playtest groups that you guys have built up to like as almost like an advisory committee of people that have tried some of your other games? You respect their opinions and things like that, and how have you kind of moved forward with that?
Yeah, so we have we've been able to make a lot of friends with other designers over the years. Just the longer you're in the industry, you can meet new people. So it's a lot of I'll play your design if you play my design, and then we also have really just friends and family that we can, use our social credit to just make them help us with our work. And we love everybody who does that for us. So, yeah.
Well, certainly with the campaigns you've done, I think, again, I love to put this in Canadian dollars because it's just larger. $1.2 million is what I was able to add up across the different campaigns. So that's just Kickstarter. That doesn't include what you guys have done outside of Kickstarter. But that's an incredible, track record for a company like you. Indie company. Who would have thought, 5 years ago, you'd be at this level, or maybe you guys did. And kind of how have you planned out that kind of future outlook? Now, obviously, you have got different, I guess, colored glasses looking forward on what you've actually achieved. So now you probably have a lot more confidence in what you can achieve. But after that kind of bow ties failure, how did you guys kind of recalibrate? Like, what was the kind of the general environment and sentiment across, the two of you as you're trying to figure out your path going forward?
Yeah, that was a tricky time when like the bow ties campaign failed, and then like we both had day jobs, and then kind of shortly after that we had left our day jobs, and we were like, okay, well, it's now or never. We got to make this thing work. We kind of doubled down to do this. So that was a really crucial turning point for us as a company. And the company is just the two of us, so it's like we got to put all our time and effort into this or it'll fail. And so yeah, like we spend an obscene amount of hours working on game design in this company. It's I don't even want to know how many hours a week I spend doing this. But
well, I think that, and I'm glad you said that, because I think it breaks the illusion that some people might have that, somebody, they just took a game and threw it up on Kickstarter and had some fancy graphics thrown up, and next thing you know, they're making all this money. It's a massive grind, right? Like there's so many different aspects to this. There's the game design, getting that right, but then there's the manufacturing side and making sure that you get your projections of your finances correct. Because as you know, one mistake in shipping, and it's the difference between you making money and losing a boatload of money, right? So this isn't a one and done for you guys. You guys now with 6 campaigns, you can't afford to have an error, right, of something like that, because it can really impact you as a company, right, and people's confidence in those campaigns going forward. So how do you guys forecast, like right now? Like, is it based on now you've had your enough campaigns that you can kind of figure what the right math? And if that's the case, how did you do it before you had gone through this a couple of times to figure out what's some advice you'd have from other people to help them make sure they're prepared?
Yeah. So, my research, and I suggest everyone do this, is go find your favorite campaigns, find the ones that fulfilled on time or had great tracking info, and find out where that came from, and look for those companies. There are a bunch of fulfillment companies. So we use Fun Again Logistics, but there's in Asia, there's plenty of companies. Asia VFI, you're going to want to source from multiple places and find the really credible ones. Talk to them and tell them, try and forecast your own numbers. You might have to wait until the campaign's over to actually give them, hey, I think my box weighs this much, it's this big, and I need you to send out 300 shipments, to Japan. Like, can you give me an estimate? And just get those estimates, and then kind of based on, what other companies have used, like, go with those guys, and yeah, that's the way to do it. Just kind of see what everyone else is doing and choose the best people.
Yeah, on this show, we talk a lot about, again, I'll give credit to CrowdOx's Chandler Copenhaver. He calls it the co-opetition, right? Where you have all these different publishers that try to help each other, right? And want to see each other be successful. I mean, people that create games love games and love playing other people's games. Maybe it makes sense to reach out to another group or company that have already put a game on Kickstarter. And I know there's a lot of trust in it, but even almost sharing, saying, hey, do you mind taking a look at this kind of profit loss document I've put together? I think I've got everything right, but I just need a second set of eyes to make sure I haven't missed anything fundamental. I mean, that could be the difference between somebody making a colossal error and saving an error, I guess, eh?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I think like it's a really amazing community in the board game world where I think every designer and every publisher I've ever met is just so willing to like give information and help and feedback on everything. Like no one's trying to get a leg up on each other. Like it's all, like you said, it's extremely collaborative.
Yeah.
And so if you're an aspiring designer, like, there's so many resources out there, like just reach out, and like I guarantee people are happy to help. It's a really cool, positive community. So definitely take advantage of the resources, and people will always be willing to give any advice to help you succeed.
Yeah. So after Canvas is fulfilled, which I think is in the next couple months, what's next for you guys? Do you have another game on the way, or you're just going to kind of rest for a while, or what's the plan?
So we haven't officially announced anything yet. We've been kind of figuring out when and how to do it, but I guess this is as good of a time as any, right?
Hey, what better place than the Binge?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we've been working on a new game. It's a sequel game. It's called Crypt: Here Lies the Queen. So it's a standalone sequel to our previous Crypt game. And so the reason we're working on this project is because we've sold out of Crypt. We've been fortunate enough for that game to be very successful, and we on top of that we did a pay what you feel campaign last year that did very well. Like, so the pay what you feel campaign was we made Crypt available to whoever wanted it for whatever price they wanted it at, and we ended up sending 2,500 copies of it, like,
wow,
all across the states. And so that was really it was a really cool thing to do, and we got a lot of positive feedback on that. But now we don't have any more Crypt.
How did you employ that? Did that go through just through your website, or how did you run that campaign?
Yeah, we made a post on Reddit, and it just went to our website, and a PayPal link. It was just very basic and simple. But yeah, it worked out pretty well. There were some really generous people, and then and you also, of course, you send some copies for free to others, but it all kind of balanced out, and it was a really great positive experience for everyone, I think.
What did it average out to, if you don't mind me asking? Like, with all that together per unit, did you end up averaging higher than the $9 that you did on Kickstarter? Or?
I don't remember. Do you remember, Andrew?
It was definitely more than $9.
Yeah.
So that was super nice. A lot of people, got the game for the cost of shipping, and a lot of other people were super generous. So and then we had to pay for shipping. So which ended up, being, close to break even.
It all balanced out, but you're not sitting on a bunch of stock paying for storage. So that's a pretty good thing too, right? And it gives you a chance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Work on the sequel.
And it was a lot of goodwill. So we were able, since we were able to do that right before the launch of Canvas, there was a ton of goodwill towards Canvas when that came out. So it was a nice, piece of marketing in a time when people need games, I think.
I got somebody in the lobby that's just asking.
But yeah, the new game Crypt.
Yeah, the new game Crypt.
Oh, in the lobby.
Yeah, is it going to be $9 was the question. They said, is it going to be the same price as the original Crypt, or is it going to be a little bit higher?
I don't think it's feasible anymore. But on top of that, we're really trying to upgrade the experience. So we're trying to do some cooler components, and we've upgraded gameplay quite a bit. So we've kind of mitigated the luck factor to it. Now there's like communal dice rolls that affect everyone. There's all new scoring tiles. The central bidding mechanism works a little differently. So there's no more like bumping people out and undoing each other's turn. So it's a lot more kind of strategic without the feel bad moments, I guess.
That sounds awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate your time. This has been amazing going through, again, just kind of seeing the story behind how Canvas came together. It hit my radar when I was on Kickstarter last year, and I didn't get a chance to actually pledge on it. So I was asking you just before we came live here, is once you guys are done all your pledges, if there's going to be any extra stock that'll go as late pledges. So for people looking to still get into that game, there might be some stock available, you're saying, in the next couple months?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll have the game available on our website and Amazon. So probably late February, March, we should have some stock available. Yeah.
Will you ever do a reprint on that, given how popular and successful that game was?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not quite sure what kind of units we'll be looking at after fulfillment, but I'm sure there will be future reprints and stuff.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, Andrew, all the best to you this year. You guys are living the dream. You're doing this full time, and I know there's a lot of people that kind of look into you guys and seeing your success, and it's inspiring others. So I want to thank you for that and everything you've done for this community.
Yeah, thanks, James.
Thank you.
Care. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply join the Facebook group Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.